Hi everybody, in this video we're going to be going over section 4 of our TSI booklet. Okay, number 1 says, in an xy plane, what is the y-intercept of that equation? So let's remember what a y-intercept means. It just means where the graph crosses the y-axis. So any point here, the x value is always going to be 0 because I'm not moving left and right off of that y-axis. So the easiest way to find your y-intercept is to take the x value, set it equal to 0, and then plug it in wherever you see x. So I'm going to say y is equal to 3, plug in 0, and then we're just doing PEMDAS, which means I have to do my parentheses first. So 0 minus 2 is negative 2, 0 plus 1 is 1, and then I'm just multiplying. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, and negative 6 times 1 stays negative 6. Therefore, my y-intercept is negative 6. Now, your other option, because this is two parentheses, when I have two parentheses, I can multiply them out. So you could do your box. You could put your x minus 2 on top, your x plus 1 down here, multiply everything out, and then combine your terms, x squared plus x minus 2, minus x there. And then that's going to be in parentheses. You're going to take the 3, you're going to distribute the 3, so you get 3x squared minus 3x minus 6. And then, because this is your a, b, and c value, remember your c value is also the y-intercept in a quadratic when it's in standard form. So those are your two different options. I personally think plugging in 0 to get the y-intercept is easier, but if you forgot, you can always do it this way. Okay, next one. If 5t minus 6 is equal to 8t, then what is 7t? All right. We need 7t, but right now I'm just going to focus on what is t. So we're going to solve this equation and get t by itself on one side. So I'm going to move t to the other side by subtracting 5t. These will cancel, so I get negative 6 is equal to 3t. To get t by itself, I need to divide by 3. So my t value is equal to negative 2. Now that I have t by itself, I'm like, oh, well, I could take t and plug it into this equation to solve for 7t. I'm going to multiply 7 times negative 2, which will give me a negative 14. So there's my answer choice there. All right, next one. Which of the following could be the equation for the graph below? The first thing I see is that this guy is concave up, or he's smiling. So that means that the a value, or the number in front of x squared, has to be positive. So this and this, these are both negative. These would both be facing down, so I'm going to cross those off. Notice these guys both have a positive value in front of the x squared, so I know that they're both facing up. Next, I'm going to look at that vertex. Remember, the vertex is always the C, D, and that's when I'm looking in vertex form of a quadratic. So that's y is equal to a, x minus c squared plus d. So your vertex is always C, D, but be careful. Remember, the c value is always the opposite of the sign, and then the d value will stay the same. So if this guy is negative 2, 1, when I plug it in, this would be x plus 2, and this will stay the same as a positive 1. So looking at my answer choices, my answer here is D. Remember, whenever we're looking at a vertex, C, D, C value is the opposite, the D value is the same. All right, moving on to number 4. In the xy plane, a line runs through the coordinate 4, 6 and the origin. Which of the following is an equation of the line? Okay, there's this vocabulary word here that maybe we haven't heard in a while. Origin just means the point 0, 0, or the middle of your graph. So I'm going to rewrite this as 0, 0. They're asking us about a line. Remember, we write a line, y is equal to mx plus b. That's the slope-intercept form, where this guy is the slope, and this guy is the y-intercept. If you guys have forgotten how to find the slope or how to find the y-intercept, you can always go straight to the graph and kind of sketch out what it's going to look like. So through the origin means through the center. So here, this point 0, 0. And then 4, 6 would be roughly here. So already I kind of have an idea of what that line is going to look like. And now that I see that, I'm like, oh, y'all, this is my y-intercept. My y-intercept is 0. So I'm going to have a b value equal to 0. Therefore, I can get rid of a and I can get rid of b because they said the y-intercept was 6. So I'm going to get rid of those two already. Next, I need to find the slope. So there's two ways you guys can do this. If this point is at 4, 6, we remember slope as rise over run. So this guy is at 6 and this is 4, because remember a point is always x comma y. Well, I'm rising 6 and I'm running 4, so my slope is 6 over 4, which if you simplify, you can divide by 2 on top and bottom. I would get a 3 over 2, which is my slope, so I know my answer choice here is C. Now, the other option, maybe you don't have super nice points, is to remember the slope formula. It says the slope is equal to the change in y's over the change in x's. I technically have a x and y point. This is x1, y1, the x and y of my first point. And technically, this is x2, y2, x and y of my second point. So if I go ahead and plug those in, I have 0 minus 6 over 0 minus 4, which would give me negative 6 over negative 4. Two negatives make a positive. And then I have the same 6 over 4, which simplifies into 3/2. So again, we would know the slope is 3/2, and we can verify that the y-intercept is 0. So there's a couple different options. I'd like to give you guys different options in case one makes more sense to you than the other one. Okay, next one, the formula for converting temperature from Fahrenheit to Celsius is given there. If the temperature is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, what is it in Celsius? Well, they give us what our F value is. So I'm going to take 50 and plug it into the equation wherever I see F. So let's rewrite. C is equal to 5/9. Let's go ahead and plug in 50 minus 32. And now all I'm doing is PEMDAS. I need to do my parentheses first. So that would give me 18 when I subtract them. And now I need to multiply these fractions. So technically 18 is not a fraction, but I can put it over 1. And then I'm just multiplying. Multiply your tops, multiply your bottoms when you're multiplying fractions. But I'm going to give you guys something that might help you, especially if you don't have a calculator on this question. If anything on the numerator or the top of your fraction can cancel with anything on the denominator, you can cancel it before you multiply. So looking at these, I noticed that 9 and 18 can both be divided by 9. So 9 divided by 9 is 1. 18 divided by 9 is 2. And now when I multiply tops and bottoms, 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times 1 is 1. And that gives me a simplified answer of 10, which is my answer choice here. So if you have fractions that you are multiplying, anything on the top can cancel with anything on the bottom. Doing that will make your numbers smaller, and especially if you don't have a calculator, will help you guys in the end. All right. Last slide here. We got 3 more. If the equation of the line L is graphed below, which of the following is true if the equation for L is equal to mx plus b? Okay, we remember that that is the same that we just talked about, our slope-intercept form. Here is our slope for m. Here is our y-intercept for b. And now I'm going to go ahead and look at this line. This guy is going downhill, so my slope is going to be negative. And my y-intercept is here. I'm not really sure where that is, but I know it's above 0. So I'm going to say my y-intercept is positive. So now let's go ahead and look at our answer choices. M again is our slope. We said it was negative. So this says, the first one says m is greater than 0, which I'm like, nope, I know it's negative. So I'm going to cross that guy out. And I'm going to cross out C because it also says I have a positive slope. Now I'm going to look at my y-intercept. We said our y-intercept was positive, meaning bigger than 0. So I'm going to choose this bottom one here because it says the y-intercept or the b value is greater than 0. Remember when we're talking about less than and greater than, this is less than, this is greater than, and then remember if it has the bar underneath, it's greater than or equal to. I know this one doesn't have it, but just in case you guys need a refresher. Okay. A football was kicked into the air from a hill 20 feet above the ground. After t seconds, the height of the ball can be expressed by that equation. What is the maximum height in feet after the ball was kicked? Okay, remember you can always draw a picture if you need to. The 20 feet just means where they're starting. They kicked it up and then it hits the ground somewhere. We are looking for the maximum height, which is always the vertex, which is a point, x comma y. A specific point of the vertex is you can always find the x value using the formula x is equal to negative b over 2a. That is so important. So if you have not written it down somewhere, make sure you write it down because the TSI loves to ask these types of questions. Well, now that we have the formula, we need an a and a b. Remember, a is always the value in front of t squared. B is always the value in front of t. We're going to take those and plug it into this formula. X is equal to negative, my b value is 32. On the bottom, here's the 2 from the formula. Here's the a value, negative 16. Remember, we're only taking the numbers. We're not taking the variable t. Now we're going to simplify. On the bottom, 2 times negative 16 gives me a negative 32, and negative 32 divided by negative 32 gives me 1. So there's my x value. Now let's go back to what the question was asking. It's asking for the maximum height. Height means y, so I got my x value. Now I need to plug it in to find my height for y. So I'm going to take 1 and I'm going to plug it in wherever I see the variable t here. So I'm going to put negative 16, plug in 1 squared, plus 32 times 1, plus 20. Be careful when you're squaring. This is not 1 times 2. This is 1 times 1, which is 1. Negative 16 times 1 stays the same. This stays the same because it's times 1. When I add all of those together, I will get a value of 36. So my answer choice here is 36. So again, when it's asking for maximum height, remember that's the y value. So use your formula to find the x value of your vertex, then plug it into your equation wherever you see the t value to solve for your y. Okay, last, they're asking about transformation. So how do we go from x cubed to 1/2 x cubed plus 6? So I'm going to write this here. So remember our transformations. We had an a value, we had a c value, and we had a d value. The a value is always in front of your parentheses, and there was 3 different options. We can have a vertical stretch if the value was greater than 1. We can have a vertical compression if we had a fraction or less than 1. And if it was negative, we are going to reflect it over our x-axis. Y'all remember when we had quadratics and we had a positive or concave up? Remember when it flipped upside down, it was because we had a negative in front of the x squared. That's what I mean by reflecting over the x-axis. Whenever you have a negative, your graph is going to flip upside down. Okay, using this information, let's go ahead and look. So because we have a 1/2 in front of our x cubed, 1/2 is less than 1. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is a vertical compression and get rid of these 2 down here. Next, we need to think about the plus 6. So let's go back to our cheat sheet over here. The c value moves it from left or right, and our d value always moves it up or down. Something specific about the c value, remember we said it kind of cons you. This is always going to be the opposite of the sign, and then the d value will always stay the same. So because we have a plus 6, I'm like, is that the c or the d value? It's outside of the parentheses, so it's going to be the d value. And because the d value stays the same, I'm going to be moving up 6 values. So I'm going to choose my answer choice here of A. So this is super important here. I know we touched on it at the way beginning of the year. Our A values, vertical stretch, vertical compression, or a reflection if it's negative. C value is left and right and does the opposite of the sign. And then the D value stays the same and moves up and down. All right, if you guys have any questions, come find me. If not, I will see y'all in the next one.